Hi there, I'm Claire McDonald-Liu, and this is a Family Health Lab. In today's conversation, I'm talking with Tracey Mcbeath, TED Talk presenter, author, and health coach trainer with the Nutrition Network. If you would love to transform your health but feel stuck in old habits, this conversation is for you. Listen in as Tracey shares how she broke free from using alcohol and food as her emotional rewards, and shares her strategies to help you set your new health habits so that you can live your best life.
You're listening to the Family Health Lab. Healthy parents, healthy kids.
Hi there, Tracey. Thank you so much for joining me from Melbourne today.
It's an absolute pleasure, Claire. I love chatting with you. I've been loving all your podcasts, so it's a thrill to be on as a guest.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're a health coach. You often support people with their nutrition, but you also support other health coaches, which is fascinating and I think really, really important. And as well as talking a lot about the nuts and bolts of how people can get across their own health and the step changes that they can make, the habit change, you've really shifted, and your focus is a lot around habits, people's setting their own goals, and doing a lot of what people call the inner work and living a life of authenticity. I think I really associate you with that. So big question really, but what is is there a way of summing up what it is to live authentically?
Oh gosh, yes, a big question. Well, firstly, I'd say I'm passionate, and that comes across as prolific. I think I definitely believe in everything I do. Do I have a purpose to change people? No, but I do want to show people what's possible. And that started with nutrition, obviously opening my eyes to the fact that I didn't, I guess I was going off false information, if you like. And that search has really led me down a path of finding out in so many other ways where I was going off false information. And the authenticity to me is that I realized in the journey, for want of a better word, I know it's kind of overused and people, think it's a bit, whatever. But in my sort of last 11 years, that started with changing my diet. I've realized there were so many other things I was operating off, was false data. And a lot of that was the inner stuff. So the beliefs around who I was, the beliefs around what I was capable of, even understanding that, my mind was going to try and sabotage me at every opportunity it got, but that wasn't me. My nervous system being triggered by, stories that were now no longer relevant and no longer true, that I had to change and I had to challenge. And, we know that health is not just about what you eat. I mean, that's it is an important part. It's a big part. And a lot of my clients have started on that journey when they start with me. But what they are really struggling with is finding out the way it needs to look for them. They're really struggling with the other pillars of health. So they may they may get the diet to a point where it's working for them in some ways, but they know they're missing other things. So whether it's, enough energy for movement or, building strength or relationships, all these sleep, all these other important parts of health. So to me, a lot of that comes with understanding how we work as human beings. And that's a big part of the work I do. It's not telling anybody what to do. A health coach doesn't tell people what to do. They show them how it works and help them to learn what's going to work best for them. But if we don't know who we are, how do we know the decisions we're making are the best ones for us? It really is, to me anyway, the most fundamental piece of the puzzle in terms of just ensuring that you are on the path you want to be on.
I think that's really interesting because working as a health coach myself, nutritionist, I feel nutrition is fundamental to your health. It's like, for me, it's like the foundation, and then there's the other pillars. But people, if it was simply around change your foods to these foods, we would just need a couple of pages on a website or a really, good newsletter or leaflet, and that's it. We would hand that over and the work would be done, and we wouldn't and people would get it, switch it, and off they would go. So there is definitely that the fundamentals around that to get in place before and during your changes with food and your relationship
Yeah,
with food. So I think it's
absolutely.
really, yeah, and that term that you used, false information,
Mm.
that's interesting. That's I was just trying to think, what are the examples perhaps that some of your clients of the false information that's coming
False
to them, or that
information.
hmm,
It's really important. If you think about even that concept of, yes, foundation of food is foundational, but what if we eat when we're sad, or what if we turn to alcohol and chocolate when we're stressed? That would be 99.99% of my clients, and that was me. So to me, is false information, because intellectually we know that alcohol and these foods are not good for our health. Yet in the moment when we are suffering psychologically, we don't feel good. We feel stressed. We feel overwhelmed. We feel sad. Uh, the answer is that for our brain. That's what our brain offers up. If that is what has been created, we've habitually done that. And for so many of us, that is the truth, because sugar is a part of our life from the moment we're born, literally. Every celebration, it comes out. But also when we are sad as a child, as children, often we are placated by, here, have some chocolate to make yourself feel better. We're not really taught to manage our emotions. We're not taught where they come from. Then we're not taught that they're okay to have. So then I sort of call it like a thought, sort of becomes a thought storm. We start with a false truth, which is that emotions are something to fear and that we have to search outside of ourselves to fix it. But then it just gets built on and built on and built on and built on. And then as adults, if we haven't addressed, emotional regulation and where all that comes from, the minute we are suffering, it's just what we will go to. And it doesn't, people say, oh, you have choice. And I will talk about the fact that I have a choice. But in those moments when we're working off this false data that says that relief comes by drinking, that relief comes from eating sugar or ice cream, then I don't have a choice. I had no awareness that I had a choice. So that to me is the false data in terms of diet, because I got diagnosed at 40 as pre-diabetes and as pre-diabetic and with fatty liver. It took me till I was 44 to be able to stop drinking daily, and to stop then, of course, the drinking was the start then of just my lack of control, if you like, around eating chocolate and ice cream. And I just thought I was just not disciplined. I just thought there was something wrong with me. Why do I know this, but how can I stop doing it? That's the false data that I was working on, because I just didn't have another solution until I did the inner work. And that is all inner work. That's all about understanding emotions. It's all about understanding habits. It's all about understanding that, essentially you have to you can sit through uncomfortable emotions and you're okay. You don't need to reach for anything outside of yourself. So that would be the biggest one that I think I work with. Cravings will come into every client that I work with, and it's really big in my groups. But there's also false data around our nervous system. And I went down this path after I got diagnosed then at 45 with Hashimoto's. And I realized that I had a dysregulated nervous system that was being triggered on a lot, pretty much every day, just simply by things like my partner might have been upset, my kids might have been upset. I took that personally. I made it about me. Someone might criticize something I did. It looked like I might have been going to make a mistake, or something wasn't going to go in the way that I thought it should go. I had a tissue in the washing. Anything that didn't go in the way I thought it should go, that set off my nervous system. And I was sort of living in this heightened state for such a very, very long time. And I see this as incredibly common. And if we are living in that state, well, we've got adrenaline, cortisol, and what has to come out to clean all that up is insulin, because we're not really running anywhere. We are just living in this state of mind that's flooding our body with all these chemicals. Yet it's acting as though our life is in danger, as though there is a real threat, but the only threat is a thought that we've got. Yeah, our only threat is coming from our own mind. There is no real threat. I'm not about to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or run over by a car. It's just coming from my mind. And it's very invisible. You know, until people are pointed to this, they can't see it. They don't know they're living in this heightened state. But it's directly linked to, you know, health problems. And I would actually say it goes hand in hand with diet in terms of importance of managing our state of mind, having a nervous system that knows how to turn on and off, but isn't working off faulty data. It's actually only switching on when it's actually a real threat. So, yeah.
You become aware sometimes of these cravings and how highly they're kind of in the background screaming at you when they're gone, when you're free from them, which is it's really, therefore it's kind of keeping the belief and just kind of keeping pushing forward with the habit changes. So an example I've got is when I gave up sugar and then processed sugar and refined carbohydrates. It was a few months later that I had a real moment of clarity that I didn't need the sweet thing at when I met a friend for coffee, and I had always had something sweet, a chocolate muffin or a chocolate cookie or a piece of chocolate with my coffee, and it was just it was a switch that had switched off. And I believe it's the same with these other urges, the urge to comfort ourselves with alcohol, which you talk about in your beautiful book, which I have here, that I bought a copy, and at the same time my husband bought a copy because we were so thought it was just such a good idea, and it's well thumbed. It's we'll talk about both of your books, those books, but you talk about your urges with it, and you're so frank about your own journey and your own struggles and emotional eating in that, and giving people these really, really, really gentle steers that they can take or choose the next insight. It's a really gentle journey through holding your hand almost, and giving a little insight that's going to be helpful in uncovering it. Because when we call it inner work, I mean, for me still, I find that term quite difficult, but actually if you use it, if you kind of think of it as a gentle journey, and every little nudge forward is part of it, then one day you just don't have the same urges. I was talking to a client recently who has, like you mentioned, emotional eating for yourself, and alcohol as an emotional crutch, you know, after a tough day or a bit of stress, or a reward. Actually, a lot of the time it was based around reward, and feeling like that had slipped into problematic or functional alcoholism, or I'm just concerned about his habits. And it wasn't until he had quit a few other things and changed them and upgraded his diet away from sugar and refined carbohydrates, and then he went off caffeine was the next step. And it was about 2 weeks after he was clear of caffeine that he just did not need the alcohol. He didn't need to open the bottle of red wine in the evening. So all of these steps, I feel, help pushes forward. And then it's also looking back and taking notice of what's cleared and what we're not being pushed towards by our inner drivers and hormone imbalances and dysregulation, and just not being emotionally regulated, which does bring me on to your amazing TED Talk. And I just was intrigued why you began it with the bottle of red. It's standing in your kitchen, holding a nice bottle of red, nice glass, kind of about to reward yourself. What made you want to start with that story of you in your home kitchen?
Well, because you know, it happened that way. I mean, insight is often not like that. Like, insight is often accumulative. Is exactly like you just said. We kind of look back and we're like, oh, you know, I don't feel like I need that anymore, or I'm really noticing in those situations now that I'm managing it better, and I'm feeling a lot more calmer, and I'm feeling peace, and I'm feeling clarity around how to how to act. Um, that's usually how it works. And people are kind of looking for a massive light bulb moment, but it doesn't really happen that way. But it did for me. But it was only, I think, because I'd been looking in that direction for some time, and I had seen little things, but I kind of hadn't noticed it until I saw it with, it really was like, I think I talk about it in the TED Talk, which is almost a year ago now, but it was like a slap in the face. Like, it was just like, wake up. What, look at what is happening here. Look at the reality of it. So that's why I did start it, because to me, even though 4 years prior to that, I did change a lot of my diet. I started to understand about sugar and low carb, and I took sugar out and I changed a lot of stuff. This was kind of, for me, life didn't begin until I had this insight and I saw what was going on. And you talk too about how, inner work sort of has a lot of thought around it, and a lot of, I suppose people avoid things that may have uncomfortable thinking around it. But to me, it's not really inner work, it's inner understanding, I guess, because what we're only ever up against is a misunderstanding, and it is a whole lot of thinking that is taking us away from who we are. So I truly believe that we are all complete. We come here with everything we need, and the only thing that gets in the way is a whole lot of stories and a whole lot of thought that looks like who you are is of value, and that value is outside you. So that value is not outside you. My value lived in other people. So a lot of the time, people who have find comfort in alcohol also have a codependent issue. So very common when you grow up in a family of addiction, which I did. So that meant that I had everything that was precious about who I was as a human being was reliant on other people. So, my well-being was only okay if they were treating me in a certain way, or they were happy with me. And the whole process is shifting. So it's really having the courage to look with open eyes as to where the value sits. And I think I even said in that talk as well, I ask every single client, about their values and who they are and what matters to them. And many people can't answer it because of this misunderstanding of what is downloaded to us when we're younger, what we are told, who we think we should be. And all of that comes back to being safe and being loved. But most of it is usually a faulty story. So I started the TED Talk like that because that's exactly what was the start of really finally opening my eyes and starting the process of seeing that my value was already within me. It came with me when I was born, and the only thing that was taking me out of that was a constant belief that anything of value was out there, and that I needed things outside of me to be okay, and I didn't. And, I haven't looked back, and I'll never stop looking. And that is everything I teach. I teach that to all my clients in my groups and one-on-ones. And I actually coach coaches in this through the Nutrition Network as well. This is what I teach them. And it starts with them. It starts with you understanding this within yourself. If you are a coach and you don't understand this, how can you help people change it within themselves? I think it's an incredible journey of self-awareness being, to me, everything. So many people do things just simply from a place of misunderstanding, and because they can't see it. They're not bad people. They're not broken. They just haven't seen what they need to see yet. So that was a long-winded answer to that question of why I started it. But I just thought it kind of brought everything in nicely. I would have loved to have got up there and talked about, diet more, but I did throw in a few things around how I'd reversed my diabetes, but I couldn't do that, or pre-diabetes. I couldn't do that till I understood this. I really couldn't. And that's why I think, diet is metabolic health through diet and other factors so important. But I rarely talk about that because 99.9% of people land with me and they've got the knowledge. They know more than I do. They've listened to the podcast. They've read the books. They know it. They just can't translate it and can't make real changes in their lives. And I think this is why.
And I feel the same when I'm talking to a lot of the people that I'm talking to. Sometimes it is information that they need, that a whole piece on carbohydrates and things, but less and less and less so. It's much more about those inner urges and habits that have been formed over many years, and using food and alcohol often as a crutch and as a support, as a comfort, and it's become such a habit. In your experience and speaking to people after your TED talk, does the alcohol piece resonate? Because we're often talking about food. Um, Primarily, I am as a nutritionist and as a health coach, and people coming in with a health condition they want to manage, and they're stuck with why they haven't changed it, and how can we help them do that. But does the alcohol piece also resonate with the people you're talking to, about the urge that you were feeling at that time in the kitchen, that you needed that reward or comfort at that time, and you needed it most evenings? And I feel that that is reflected in across a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely see it is. I mean, when we understand physiologically what happens when we drink, I mean, it's, I see a lot of people, they're really trying to give up sugar, but they still drink every night. So it's really helping them to understand, well, it's kind of keeping all those pathways alive. I mean, it's very similar in the brain, when we drink. And but I get it. It is a journey. I talk about the trap of moderation, and I think we can put this. There's a trap of moderation in sugar, but there is also in alcohol, and I think we search for that, or I did, because it's so socially accepted. Because if I go to a function now, I mean, I stopped drinking nightly at home for years before I actually stopped drinking altogether. I haven't had a drink now for about probably nearly 2 years. But for a long time, I made a rule that I followed that said if I was at a function, it was okay for me to drink, but wasn't one drink. I would have 5. But that was okay, even though I knew deep down it wasn't. It was kind of, that was how I didn't have to actually confront making a different choice and being uncomfortable being in a social situation where I wasn't drinking. So those things are real. Even we think about it when we're saying no just to a dessert, and people think we're weird. But then you add the alcohol on top of that. I've had clients that their whole, they would go out every Friday night to drink with their mates or go to the footy. And when they stopped, they did make the brave decision to stop drinking, because they had to get to a point where you realize it really isn't working. But his friends stopped inviting him. That they are the risks that we have to take.
You're pushed out of the herd, your tribe. But
Yes,
that's
you are.
happened to a number of clients I've worked with. But I remember one lovely lady, I'll call her Susan, and she had 3 groups that she was pushed out of. There was her really, really good long-standing friends that she would go out with once or twice a month, and they would have cocktails. And then there was the coffee and chat friends, and then there was going hiking for a big lunch that was always a bit boozy. And each of those kind of pushed her out, and her long-standing friends, they were actually really unkind. They were kind of mocking her on evenings with her mocktail, and they were really rude, and they were really kind of jibing her to drink, because it reflects back on how uncomfortable they're feeling about that situation. And she managed to breathe into that discomfort, feel that loss, because it was a real sense of loss. And then, she did other things to form good habits and support her and build a platform around her. She ended up starting to go to gym classes and art classes and forming new social outlets and social interactions, and and eventually kept in contact with her older friend groups, but in a different way. But it just reminded me when you were just saying that, Tracey, because she was literally pushed out of the group of really, really close friends, because they were just so uncomfortable with her change.
And I think that happens to many of us. I mean, it certainly has for me in other, not necessarily over the sugar and the alcohol, but maybe over other things. I think COVID was something that tended to sort things out too for people, because people were very strong in their opinions of it. But I love how you said that, what others say to you is a reflection of them. So my choices make other people uncomfortable. When I just eat meat and don't drink and don't eat dessert, that brings up things in them. That's okay. I hold the space for people to be that, and I don't pressure, or push myself onto anyone, because I understand how it works. But when people don't understand that, they get very uncomfortable with that, and they will try and deflect that onto you, or they'll try and make you feel silly to make themselves feel better. I mean, it's human nature. But that's what I teach my clients, to understand that and to expect that. And yes, friendships might shift, but you're opening up the space for new people in your life, exactly like your client, new experiences. I think the difficulty can come when it might be immediate family members, and sometimes there are some pretty uncomfortable times. But the way I help my clients navigate it is seeing that, like bringing it back to the start of the conversation we had, you are responsible for yourself. You have one life to live. And I truly believe if it's not an authentic one and you don't stay true to who you are, you do end up regretting it, which was the other part of, so the other part of my TED talk, which I was on the path towards until I made these changes. So I help people to hold the space and love people around them, regardless of the choices they make, but they do have to remain true to themselves. And actually, while it may be uncomfortable at the start, it gets a lot easier. And what you're actually saying to others around you as well is that I'm releasing you to stay true to yourself as well. So I often find, particularly if it's a partner, if they hold the space, they do themselves, they're not judgmental of their partner does get curious and ends up,
Yeah.
maybe, it's not a
Yeah.
guarantee, and it's not why you do it. You have to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
But, anything is possible. And
Mm-hmm.
just while we're on that subject, because I recently had in Melbourne a lived experience conference, and I asked Prof Noakes to record a welcome that I could play at the start of the event, which he did because he's just such an incredible human being. But he talked about the TED, like he'd obviously watched my TED talk, and he intertwined that concept of, every one of us in the space, including him, have had to make really tough decisions and really tough choices because we're stepping outside of really what's considered the norm. But if we don't do that, we risk, being, living a life of regrets or not living a life true to ourselves. So I think, take heart in the fact that it's not just you, but it's a normal part of the process. See what we coaches do, Claire? I mean, we show people to expect things and understand what's going to come up so we don't have to fear it, and we can navigate through it. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
It is so worth it. I think it might be an interesting point as well. I think a lot of people expect us to completely, as health coaches, nutritionists, or anyone in the health field, to completely have everything all together and be perfect. And I think a lot of what drives myself and other people in this field, I don't know about yourself, is that we know people who we would love dearly in our families and our friendship groups to make these health changes. And so life isn't perfect, and we changed our own health and had great wins. Your own health stories, amazing, turning around pre-diabetes, fatty liver disease. But yeah, I'm sure there's people that you would love to be able to bring along with them, with living an authentic life, changing habits, and surrounding themselves then with the choices to eat real foods and whole foods and different diet approaches. I just thought that's have you got a comment on perfectionism? Because I was talking to somebody just yesterday, a client, and I really do feel what's driving him and helping him notice why he's constantly seeking out more test results and more checks and more is because he's comparing himself with other people. Even though he's feeling well, he's got more energy, he's reversed his health conditions, he's lost the weight, he's maintained that now for a long period of time. He's still feeling quite dissatisfied and looking to see what other people are doing. So yeah, just have you got a comment on perfectionism? And it's something that definitely crops up again in your book. That point that we don't need to strive for that.
Yeah, we could talk for hours on the topic.
That's true.
I think it's important to see that it's a normal part of the human experience. Minds compare. Minds are always trying to pit us against the tribe to make sure that we're safe. And our tribe now is billions of people on social media. And I think we have to understand the reality of that. If we start to scroll and we start to notice our mind come up with, because we feel it. We may not necessarily notice the thinking, but we start to feel inferior or not good enough or not perfect enough, because the perception is that what everybody else is perfect and doing it, exactly the way that it should be done, but you're not. Now, it's just an illusion. It's made up. It's not true. And, yes, we can understand that people only post their show reel on social media, but we also need to understand how our own mind works and really look. That to me is the goal. I can't change what anyone else posts. I can't change social media. That's with us to stay. But I can understand that the minute I start noticing my mind starting to compare, I can, time to get off, and just get my focus back on what I'm doing. That's one thing, which is the perfection side of things, that we can really understand, right? That the mind will do that. It's like self-doubt, lack of, insecure thinking. Every human being on the planet has it, right? So while it looks like that person has it all together, I guarantee you they have self-doubt, guarantee you they have insecure thinking. But with the health stuff, I think there can be health anxiety around, is there something I'm missing? Is there something around the corner? I think there is so much of a drive for perfect test results, which don't exist. So if we look about the perfection in terms of, what is perpetuated out there, that we have to, get just to have the perfect result to be safe. Again, I think it's an illusion. Test results are just a snapshot, as we know. I could have a blood test this morning and tomorrow morning another one, and the results may be different because there are so many factors that are uncontrollable. And also, it's not a be-all and end-all what a blood test result is for our health. There are so many more important factors in terms of our mood, our energy, how we're sleeping, our relationships. Are we getting any sunlight in the morning? Are we getting any natural, light during the day? All of these things to me are so, not saying blood tests aren't important. Please don't read that as that. But we need to keep it in perspective of everything else that's going on. And I just, with my clients, if they're feeling good, and I do encourage my clients to have a low carb GP to check in with regularly to make sure things like insulin resistance or, all of that is on the right track. But if you're feeling good, that's probably the biggest indicator that everything's going okay. And really, we can get so caught up in it that we're missing life. I want my clients to feel good enough so that they can go out and live their life. I don't want them to be focused on weight loss or, obsessing about diet. I want them to understand that, there are ways to nourish our body and there are ways to damage it. So we want to choose the nourishing ones as often as possible and then go and do the things like your clients now doing, with the spare time we've got, not thinking about dieting. Let's go and do some dance classes. Let's go and join a gym, or let's go and do some painting or singing or something that you've always wanted to do since you were a kid, but you never did it. That to me is what I want for my clients.
Yeah, to build those better associations and kind of get that buzz, that maybe you're after the lift, but get it through different means, and that feeling stays with you a lot longer than that short-term food kick or alcohol kick.
That's right. The enrichment. It's the real enrichment.
Yes, and it doesn't bring you down then afterwards. But we've kind of danced around food a little bit, but it's a key topic for what people are interested in, and what I'm still very, very interested in the food piece. So go on then, Tracey. What do you eat? You've already alluded to the fact that meat and is primarily meat. So do you want to talk us through your food choices? Not that everybody has followed, but I think it's interesting to hear from you.
So obviously my caveat would be just this is the way it works for me. And with any of my clients, the first thing in my group, I will say, I'm not giving you the how-to guide. I'm not going to give you the instructions. I'm not going to say this is the protocol, put it on and you're going to get the same results, because it just never works. So it's so important that people experiment, I think, and find what's best for them. But again, to do that, we have to get over a whole lot of beliefs. Like I did probably when the first time I heard Dr. Sean Baker on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about the fact that he only ate meat, and I was instantly like, what? Like that reaction. Are you kidding? How
Me
ridiculous,
too.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, me too. I was like, what a
Yeah,
fad.
I know,
Crazy.
I know, I know. And, again, see how this is just a beautiful reflection of how our mind works. I mean, it is belief blind. Our mind is designed to keep us locked in beliefs with anything. So once you challenge it in one area, you'll start to open it up in many other areas as well. So um, I did drop the sugar as best I could and hid the rest when I turned 40. So that was nearly 11 years ago. By the time this comes out, I might be 51. So it definitely went from sugar and then low carb, then more keto, if you like. And then when I had the Hashimoto's diagnosis, I did go carnivore strict for about 6 months. And people will say you can't reverse autoimmune. Well, I did. Absolutely normal levels and still to this day. But I'm not, I would say I'm predominantly meat based. That would be if you look on any of my plates at any meal, it will be animal based. But I'm not, I'm not strict. But having said that, I think it was something that you said to me actually when I interviewed you, Claire, which I really love. And this is kind of what I try and say to people. From the outside in, it looks like I'm very strict, but I'm not. I just know what fuels myself. And because I've done the inner work in understanding beliefs and in understanding how to choose for me, there's no effort and there's no restriction. Everything is on the table, everything, but I simply know what I want to choose for me. The minute we restrict our mind by saying we can never have this, guess what it does? It obsesses about it, thinks about it, and we can only generally hold out on that for a very short time. That's how I used to think it had to be. But now I see it as it's just choosing. So yes, lots of red meat. Our protein changes every night. That's pretty much how I feed. I have 5 children and a husband, and I do most of the cooking. So the slow cooker and the roasts get a kick a lot in my family, and occasionally a Greek salad, occasionally some sweet potato, some blueberries and some cream. And that's pretty much what my whole family will eat. So it's in the morning, they're always eggs and protein, an omelette, some bacon for breakfast. Most of us, apart from my 22-year-old son who's trying to bulk up, he will have lunch, which will be mince with eggs. But most of us tend then to, even my kids, my younger boys who are in primary school, they have a really big breakfast. They have something small like a yogurt at school, and then they come home and I will have dinner. I don't work between the hours of 4 till 6 because when they come home, dinner's ready. So they'll have their dinner then, and then they might have another meal of some eggs later or something like that before they go to bed. But it works. I mean, we don't eat out very often because I do find if I go somewhere and seed oils have been included, I don't feel well the next day. I don't stress about it, but, I certainly don't, I love social functions. I don't not go to social functions if there's something not to eat, but I'm just practical around it. I just do what works for me. I don't have any, I don't need to make anyone else happy. I just need to do what works for me. I don't drink. I have not touched sugar for a very long time now. I'm very passionate about helping people see that the low carb sweetness are probably keeping them stuck in many ways. I do not believe they're healthier. They may have it's not a very popular opinion, but they may, even though they may not increase your blood sugar levels, they do still do the same things in the brain. And I think the way I look at it is our brain has to have a blueprint of what we're eating. And those foods are so new. There is no blueprint. And our gut has to tell our brain exactly what's in the food we're eating. And if they don't know, there is some problem. There's a risk. It's confused. And I truly believe that will keep you locked in hunger. And really, people say, oh, but it's a stepping stone. I'm like, well, if you choose to do it as a stepping stone, go for it. But I want you to understand what's behind every decision you make. I want you to understand that if we don't give our brain accurate information in terms of calories, nutrients, it's confused, and that doesn't help you to really understand what is going to work best for you. So yeah, so I kind of go from going to a place where, if gosh, if there was ice cream, chocolate chips, and alcohol on the table, I wouldn't, have been able to say no. To
Hmm.
now, I could have all of that in front of me and I have zero interest in it. There is no value in any of that stuff anymore. And that's the ultimate freedom. So some people might say to me, Tracy, gosh, don't you feel like you're missing out? I'm like, no, I actually
Mm.
am gaining life. And I feel at 51 more energy than I did at 25. And I just feel that this is actually been a true gift to give myself.
That's beautiful, and I think that's the way it definitely comes across in your books, both of your books. It comes across as this is a gift instead of a lot of the nutrition work and research and information coming, from a place of research and evidence and fact, and this is better and this is serving your body better, which is true. Yours comes from a perspective of that this is a gift, and choosing these small incremental tiny shifts daily throughout your day and noticing and then reviewing and then making another tiny shift, new choices, ultimately delivers that freedom. And I think that's what people um look at us, look at our family, look at me and our choices when we eat out, for example, and don't touch the dessert, don't want the sweet cocktail or what sweet drink or whatever it is, or the chips. And it isn't that I'm choosing and I'm refraining from it, or I'm using my willpower and I'm kind of having a word with myself. It's just switched off. And I was definitely the person who would have been into the crisps or the chips. So I like savoury things, and then previous to that, I would have definitely had something sweet before I went off sugar and went low carb. But now it literally is on the table in front of me and it just says nothing to me. It's not a
Mm.
battle. And I think that's something I just want people to know. It gets easier, it gets quieter, the chatter switches off. So on the food choices that you're making with your family, how do you navigate it? You've got 5 beautiful children, younger two. They're going through the school system, eating at school, surrounded by their friends, eating their lunches or their school dinners, and then they're out at the sports events. Our sport events, sell cans of Solo, cans of pop soft drinks, with the 11 sugars in, around the same as a Coca-Cola. Some of the orange ones and lemon ones have got more actually than Coca-Cola. With the sausage sizzler, is really popular in Australia, where it's white bread, ultra processed sausage, topped with super super sugary sweet. I think it's 50% sugar is
Oh,
ketchups and the
something like that.
sauces, yeah,
Mm,
and then
mm.
oils and chemicals. So just in terms of how you're navigating this parenting kind of nightmare that we're all in. When I first started going in, to the children, the play groups, when we first had our son, who was the oldest, there was always a soft drink given when they were toddlers, and or a biscuit, and they were really really pushed onto the children, and I was not the only parent who was trying to bring an alternative or say no thanks, just water. But then it seems like a few years in, parents are just kind of bowled over with it. It's like a big wave that they just get knocked down on daily, again and again and again, even though instinctively they know it's not right. So how do you navigate all of those problems or challenges?
Well, I guess I'd firstly like to say that it isn't easy. I mean, I think being a parent is it's the most challenging and yet rewarding job that we will do. So I put a lot of energy into parenting. I take my job very seriously. I think like anything, we have to give it a lot of thought and we have to put in the effort if we want to get the rewards. I think you have to be really remind yourself that you are the parent. I think a lot of people confuse their job in a lot of ways, in that they want to be their friend. I'm not my children's friend. I am my older kids who are adults now. I'm their, I guess we're a mentor, I suppose, more than anything else. I'm still not their friend. But, particularly under a certain age, I say you've got till 12. to actually have some say in what your children consume, because after that, if you've got no chance. And those foundational years are around being the parent, making the tough calls, being okay with them being upset with you. I don't care. You've got two choices: take it or leave it. I'm very firm with that. And I know that everybody isn't like that. I'm not saying that you have to be like that, but it does get easier if you can get comfortable stepping into that role. You have to teach your kids about nutrition. I really think you, as the parent, need to understand it yourself and then teach your kids, but talk about it in terms of what it's giving them. So I talk about the blueprint. My kids understand the brain gut blueprint. So they know if they eat something outside of that, their body's going to be a little bit confused. Do they still do that? Yes. You can't, like back to that perfection. We don't live in a bubble. I don't want my kids to live in a bubble. I certainly don't want them to go to a birthday party and feel they can't eat anything. I think that would be actually doing them a disservice, and that would be worse. So my job is they're in the home 95% of the time, probably more, and I can have a real impact on that. I think that the biggest thing was around 10 years ago, when I realized that I could stop forcing them to try and eat their vegetables. That it was much more about the protein and fat. And I'm like, oh my God, that just got so much easier, because that's all they want to eat anyway. Funny. I've no problem with them having, obviously fruit and vegetables. I don't buy bananas or high sugar fruits too much. They tend to go for the low sugar stuff. But they both play soccer at a pretty high level. They'll have the oranges at halftime. I've no problem with that. One of my kids will still choose a steak. The other one has decided he doesn't want them. Again, you've got to give them choices, but it's understanding the impact of the choices. And, they see all their friends having Cokes and stuff like that. My older kids, so we'll just have whatever. They'll have their mineral water, but they're comfortable with that. The sooner we get comfortable in making our own choices, the easier it's going to be when we're older, because that's essentially what I do now with clients, is getting them back to that conversation we had at the start, being true to yourself, teaching your kids to be true to themselves, to make their own choices. It's not about perfection. It's about understanding choice. If my kids feel they have a choice, I think I've done a good job. I don't know. I mean, I think we're all just doing the best we can, but I do think that, don't be afraid to make the hard yards, to make the hard decisions. I've got a friend who has young kids. They're 2 and 4, and they've already kind of developed sort of, bad habits around eating, and she's afraid to make the changes because they'll kick and scream. And I just put it into the context that you think that's hard now, you wait till they're teenagers. You
Wait till
really
they're
don't
14,
have
15.
yeah. So you
And
can do the hard stuff, and they may kick and scream for a few days, but at the end of the day, you're the one feeding them, and I do take that as a very serious responsibility.
I think it's really honest, and I feel like often we don't want to be that strict with them. We don't want to be the line, but as a parent, the line in the sand, the boundaries around screen time,
Yep,
where they
that's a big one.
are. Yeah, where they
Yep.
are, when what time they're allowed at, all of those things, and food is that. It's like screen time, it's the constant, and having a line and having values. So we have that conversation a lot with them. We've got 2 children. Our oldest, pushes on the boundaries, but we, hold the line in the home, and these are the choices. And, often he's making really, really good choices around his foods, and then sometimes he's making, I suppose, experimenting. And I feel that is a natural part as well. Like you were saying,
100%.
I massively echo. I do remember having a conversation with somebody. I've said this on the podcast because it just resonated with me so much. A lady in the health space who's quite well known. I was having a conversation with her when the children were super young, and she was saying they're your children until they're 18. So 0, don't let them have anything, don't let them try anything inside or outside of the house, no chemicals, no sugar, no sweets, no this, no that. And I was and it was like, I appreciate advice and I'm always interested, but just a light bulb went on. It's like we would damage them in another way if we were going to be
Yeah,
completely that severe.
I
So
agree.
it is about, as you're saying, I think giving them that preparation, giving them that understanding, and then also knowing that if we're giving them a great foundation of good nutrition and they've got 80%, then they go out and experiment. It's not going to kill them. It's not going to harm them. It's just, hopefully they'll feel some discomfort or and learn something more about their body and their choices, and
That's right.
we're helping them, we're guiding them in life. We don't own them. But
No.
that also that comment about your friend with the younger children, I often talk to parents because parents and families are often who I coach now around children's mood or behavior challenges and wanting to just clean up their foods just generally, or picky eaters, or because they have autism or suspected autism type behaviors. So those types of issues, people come to me to talk about food, and I often hear, but they from the families, oh, they won't change their foods, they just will not. And then, fast forward 2-3 months down the line, working with a beautiful family who are based in Perth at the moment, and their son is autistic, and he has had the same restrictive foods for repeatedly every single day for a very long time. And now fast forward 3 months, he's completely let go of nuggets and hungry jacks and pizza and
Awesome.
chips, and he's changed and he's taken on board, really. I mean, they've taken away seed oils from their diet. They're now cooking with coconut
So
oil,
good.
which was one of the biggest factors, because the smell is and taste is so different for him, and the texture. But he's taken to them all with modeling, with them supporting, with them removing the foods and them just disappearing and him being hungry. He was on 3 bowls of white rice for his dinner every day.
Oh,
So that's gone to mostly cauliflower rice, and gone down in massively in portion size. So, and he's much higher in protein, which is it's just, I think we have this preconceived idea that children will not adapt, and there are challenges, and particularly around children with food restrictions or issues, fussiness. But it can be done, and you can make the changes. And as you were saying, the younger you try that, the younger you start to tackle this and take it on, the better. And it's worth digging in for 6 months to make that change. I'm just
wow.
going to bring your your book back up, because I do love this. This is actually not on my bookcase. This is in my bedroom. And it's one of those where you can just dip in and out. And you also have, this is you have today, and you also brought out and gave me a gift, which last time I saw you give, don't you know if you remember, but you gave me this as a
Yes,
gift.
I
So
do
the
remember.
companion, and yes, and it's got beautiful insights. A lot of what you've been talking about, you do put in practice, and you do speak on it. You do work with the Nutrition Network, you work with your clients and your events, but it comes through really beautifully in these books. So I
Thank
will put a
you.
link, if you send me the link, Tracy, where
I
the,
will.
the correct updated one, where if people are interested, where they can get hold of these beautiful books. And I mean, even as a gift, I think these would be really, really lovely to help to gently nudge and guide somebody that you love in your life, to help them with
Especially
better
the pink
choices. And
one. The
yeah.
first one is it's kind of a how we work, if you like. It's a beautiful book that I know a lot of my clients have read with their kids, and the kids have read it.
Hmm.
And I've had husbands and wives read it, one insight over dinner, and then had a discussion, with it. The second book was written in conjunction with my group every morning for 6 months, and it's a bit more practical. It's much more of a how to in a lot of ways
Hmm.
than the first book, which so I would, yeah, definitely recommend the first book as a way of nudging, and just
Hmm.
as you said, it gently guides people. It's very safe, it's very loving. It comes from a place of just pure essence and belief that I have in people, and I know what's possible in every human being, but they have to be the ones to go on the journey
And
themselves.
And it comes through, and there's anecdotes as well, so that things can bed in really nicely. So one of them from that book was the cupboard. Do you remember the old cupboard?
Yes. Hmm.
And I really like that. I love a visual myself, and it just goes in plants. And I do remember the old cupboard, and it's something that you can use for yourself. Do you want to tell us about you changing your cupboard setup at home?
Yeah, so we got, it must have been the end of 20, it was around 2020. I think we'd just gotten through one of the first years of COVID, and my husband had changed his business. His karate business had closed after 30 years because of the lockdowns in Melbourne, and he decided he'd try a cooking sort of venture. So I managed to get a new kitchen out of it. He didn't keep going with that, but we put in a new kitchen, which was wonderful, and of course everything changed around, and I kept going back to the old place where the glasses used to be, but of course every time I'd open them, I'd go, oh, they're not here. And it just was a beautiful way. Like I just remember standing there going, oh, this is just how we work when we want to change something, and it's been embedded in the old cupboard. And of course, our conscious mind is so busy with our to-do list and trying to navigate, what's going on over here, what's going on over there, and what have I got to do tomorrow, and what have I got to do today, and what did that person look at me like that for? It's chatter, 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 chatter all day long. And those deeply ingrained habits that live in our subconscious mind, which is that old cupboard, it's the one navigating us when we're kind of really all busy up in the subconscious. And of course, it's a lovely way that we all work like that, and that's what we're up against when we change things around, when we want to change our habits. It just takes a few tries, and just because we go back to the old cupboard, it doesn't mean we're broken or there's something wrong with us or we're bad or anything like that. It doesn't mean anything like that. It just means we are human, and there is an old cupboard there, and eventually with the power, when we can learn to harness our conscious mind and not let it run all over the place and actually bring it to where we're at in the present moment, we will create a new path towards the new cupboard. But we have to allow ourselves the time to do that and be really kind and compassionate to ourselves every time we forget and we go back to the old cupboard.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that yeah, it's a visual, it's a really lovely anecdote that just encompasses all of what you've been saying about change. Just to wrap up, what would you like people either to know or just a simple first step you would suggest a family listening and wants to make a change? What's a really simple strategy that they could put in place from today?
A simple strategy for whether it's an individual or a family, I think, is to just know where it is that you want to go and what you want to change. And don't wait for a feeling to accompany that before you act. I think, we kind of look for the right feeling to change things, and it just doesn't happen that way. We have to make the changes based on what we know first as best we can, and then the feelings shift along the way. They shift on the journey. I talk about courage, for example. It does take a tremendous amount of courage to choose yourself and to align your behaviors and make changes in the face of how you've always done it. But the courage won't come first. We can't sit and wait for the courage. The courage comes with the action. So know that this is, you've got to listen to your heart and know that that's where you want to go and make the changes, and just one step. We don't have to do everything tonight. We don't have to do everything tomorrow. We are allowed to take it slow. And in fact, nothing good happens fast. Everything that is truly magical and wonderful in life tends to happen quite slowly. So just enjoy the journey too, allow it to unfold for you. Know that it's a process. There's nowhere for you to get to. There's no end goal where your mind will say, hey, you can rest now. Doesn't happen. That's cool. We're living life. It's living us now. And we just get to show up each day and do the best we can. So
Mm, that's beautiful. And it's not linear. I think some people think, right, here's a goal, here I am, boom. And then if there's obstacles along the way, challenges, setbacks, they feel like they've failed and there's something wrong with them. But again, it's about knowing what you want from your life, where you want to be. That's feeling healthier, more energy, or often people talk about a dress they want to get in. I mean, having milestones is really good. And then just knowing that this is a journey, and it's each step will get you closer. I think that's really lovely. That's a lovely strategy for helping people to set their own path and move forward with their own health, their own journey, their own life. But yeah, I appreciate your time and talking to me today. And
Lovely conversation. Thank you.
I really enjoyed
Me too.
chatting and learning. I always feel like I've learned, and yeah, I mean, for us, I feel we've said this before, we're really, really lucky to get to connect with each other, with different people, and to kind of keep inspired and keep learning ourselves. But I really appreciate your time and all the work and energy and positivity that you're putting into people's health and people's lives. So thank you very much, Tracey.
Oh, thank you, Claire. And the same for you. I think, it's so, had I not made the changes, 10, 11 years ago, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. And I think it does. It opens up your world and changes things in ways you can't possibly imagine. And the work you're doing is amazing. So thank you so much, Claire, for having me on.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe. This really helps us to be able to create more content.